Hello and welcome to the Full Timeout podcast. I'm Ari Bruckman. As a reminder, season 2 will be jumping into the elusive lives of content creators around the world. With that in mind, our special guest today has over 35,000 followers on TikTok. And with the release of his new single, The Perfect Song, he continues to share his gift with the world in an attempt to inspire musicians to continue to bet on themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our special guest today, Mr. Luke Reynolds. Luke, how we doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Ari.
I appreciate you being here. So, Luke, just to give people some context who aren't familiar with you or content yet, what was it for you early on? I know you had mentioned there was a connection with your father, and he was actually the one who taught you to play guitar. But what was it for you that allowed music to resonate so deeply with who you are?
Yeah, I'm a very a social person, and when you get to be in my stage of life, when you have kids and a wife, being out and socializing that way is not, not consistent with, being a family man. And so I needed that social environment, and using music as a way to connect with people was a great way for me. And the other kind of thing is at my current day job, I'm used to being a very high achieving individual, and I was going through a rough patch because of the pandemic. I wasn't getting a lot of kudos, and things just weren't happening for me. So I started searching for another place to kind of get some recognition and some pats on the back, and to build back my confidence. And that's where I found that I used music to do that.
Well, that's incredible. I know so many times when we're touching into different things, we're giving things a try. It's the only way to really know how it could impact us. But it sounds like it was the gift that keeps on giving, because not only do you get to, use the confidence that it supplied you with, but you get to give that to someone else. Who would you say would be most responsible for your success? I know you idolize some of those artists that you had mentioned when I was doing research here. Talked about James Taylor and Simon and Garfunkel. I think were some, just to name a couple, but what was it about, those artists that you wanted to make your blueprint look like that?
Yeah, to understand music a little bit, there's an acoustic guitar, which is completely typically unplugged, resonates on its own without any kind of amplification. And then you have electric guitar, and they're oftentimes two very different styles of play. One not harder than the other. They're really the same instrument, same strings. It's just a style of play. And growing up, I used to listen to my parents' records. I would sit for hours and listen to singer-songwriter stuff, and my parents were very big into that music that was played around the house a lot. And so my dad had an acoustic guitar laying around. My older brother played acoustic guitar, or played electric guitar. And so learning to play the acoustic guitar just resonated with me. And I would sit and learn to play Simon and Garfunkel and James Taylor and really old bands of the 60s and the Woodstock stuff. And then music went kind of dormant for me when I went to college for maybe the first couple of years. And then John Mayer came out. And for a while, we were 90s, grunge rock. Late 90s was coming out of the grunge rock era, and we were in a different kind of era of music. John Mayer came out and made that acoustic guitar sexy again. And he was very complex, and a lot of people think of the acoustic guitar as a simple way to play guitar, and he made it hard again. And Dave Matthews certainly had been doing that all along, and I had to go back and rediscover him. But John Mayer was the one who made me pick the guitar back up and want to play again, want to play whole songs instead of just playing parlor trick, licks and things like that. But I've never been in a lead guitarist. I'm a rhythm guitarist, and John Mayer took the rhythm guitarist and made it cool again and kind of brought it back to the forefront. And really hasn't been many. I mean, there were a lot of people cutting his mold, and he also is actually a phenomenal electric guitarist. And I think he stood out initially by using the acoustic guitar in the beginning, and then went back to his roots of playing the electric guitar. But that's what did it for me. Is I got out in college and started playing open mics, and I never sang in front of a crowd before that. Somebody convinced me to get up an open mic. They signed me up on the last person on the list at 2 a.m. I sat like this, my head down, and my palms were sweaty. I played one song, my voice cracked, but I felt a lot of relief, like the tension was off my back. And the next week I came back and I played a little more. Then I started to sit up, and I played two songs, and I was standing up, and then I was that was kind of the progression of my music. But again, the acoustic guitar has always been the roots of what I do, and I think it's the simple nature of the instrument, but also that you can play it very complex. And like James Taylor is a very, very complex player, and I just love the singer songwriter stuff. Like I can connect with it personally the best, but also I connect with a lot of other music. I'm not a lead guitarist. I have a great appreciation for them, the people who do that. But for me, the acoustic guitar is sexy when you can whip it out and just play any, right on the spot. Electric guitar, there's all kinds of things you can do, but really it's tough to do that to shine.
I think one of the things that I find incredibly interesting now, I'm not a musician myself, but as somebody who's, I would say, a huge fan when it comes to just a variety of music, one of the things I think about is how a musician finds their sound. What makes them unique? Because so many times I feel like all of the musicians that I've heard have had someone that inspires them and they end up sounding a lot like them. And so one of the things that I'm not sure if it comes with time, but how is it with you in terms of how you were able to discover your sound? And what can you kind of give to an up and coming musician about how they can be themselves while still learning from some of these greats that they aspire to be like?
Yeah, I think that very question was what held me back for the longest time from making my own music. I just thought, wow, I don't want to be the next. I didn't want to be the next John Mayer. I didn't want to sound like him. And you tinker and you think, God, that's. But I realized that it's your DNA building blocks of your music, and for me, it was my own personal story, and my personal voice. Even though again, it's part of your DNA, it's going to be impossible for you to write a song. It's John Mayer was coming from somebody's DNA, and so on and so forth. The Beatles came from somebody, the Beach Boys love the Beatles. So I think it was the acceptance of the fact that it, proudly was part of your musical DNA. And you try to deviate that DNA just a little bit to make it unique. And for me, I thought my voice was unique. I honestly didn't like it, and didn't have a lot of confidence in it, but it was other people that told me, hey, we really like the unique tonal quality of your voice. That's what attracted people to my music. So I just tried to take that and turn it into, my own style, but acknowledge that it is rooted in, again, James Taylor, Simon and Garfunkel. You look, it goes on and on, but that's kind of the musical family tree of how you get your unique sound.
You touched on something there that I really love that spoke to me. I know in my own journey, and it seems like for many of the entrepreneurs I've had the pleasure of speaking with, this is something they've experienced too. But at some point, we've needed to have that reassurance of somebody outside of our inner circle who tells us they believe in us or they see something in us that we've yet to fully come around to see ourselves. What was that for you, and how much did that influence your ability to continue to grow in terms of making music, but also just as a person on your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, it was, you're exactly right. It took somebody, an external source, to tell me because I wasn't, walking around so confident with the way I sang. I get intimidated sometimes when I hear really great singers, and on our platform, there are just endless amounts. I often tell people you could swipe up and down one person and find somebody more talented, but it was the feedback I was getting that people were, literally spending the equal amount. I was spending a lot of crazy amount of time grinding, trying to build, and people were spending that exact same amount of time with me. Some, equal amount of hours. Sometimes we were putting in, 40 hours a week or some crazy amounts of time that we were just working on this, not just in the live, but outside of the live, building it and strategizing. And people were right there with me. They truly believed that there was something more than just a little bit. They were like, there's something here. If you keep grinding, keep working, eventually you'll connect. And, so far on a micro level, they've been right. And so we just keep testing the boundaries of how far can we push this. But it was the live environment actually I favor it, because if you were playing in a bar, chances are you're not going to get that feedback. One or two people may come up to you and say, oh, I liked how you sang, or I liked how you did that. But in our environment, you're getting literal real-time feedback. People are coming and you can see them come, and you have statistics to track that will assure you that, well, people really don't just come and hang out because they think you're nice. They really do like the music, and they're engaging, and that engagement is like a vote on American Idol, right? It is a vote towards what you're doing.
Yeah, I definitely, want to use that opportunity to talk about how you've evolved on TikTok. It's been a phenomenal platform for so many creators to find that foundation of people who believe in them and then allow them to see what that looks like over time, be a part of that process. Such a unique experience it offers. But for you personally, what has that done that other things that you've tried? I know you had done something before the pandemic I was reading on about virtual reality. And I love that idea. I actually still love that concept. I don't think that's something that's going away. But for the sake of somebody who's another creator or starting their own musical career here, what was it about this platform and your exposure that's allowed you to reach the new heights you've been able to achieve?
I think TikTok has mentioned to me, or I've heard them tout that they're one of the few places where you don't need a big following to get started. So you can literally, it's like the world's biggest street corner. If you can catch the attention of people, that is, you're going to grow. And sometimes that's not always a one-to-one because there's algorithms and things that will feed you. And I've had my fair share of struggles with the algorithm, and I've had friends that are algorithm sweethearts that just absolutely have massive room numbers. But for me, it was everything about the platform. It was the fact that I could do this from home and not really disrupt my life or my day job. It gave me an ability to have work-life balance. If I was playing out at bars, even if they were big opening shows, I'd be lugging equipment till 2 in the morning. My kids would never see me. Everything would fall apart. This is like I can literally like go change in a phone booth and become Superman at night at 10 o'clock, and then I get to go back and be Clark Kent during the day. And they really don't. It doesn't mix. There is a lot of strategizing, and if you really want to be serious about it, I think there is a level of things you have to do outside of the live. But for the most part, if like I've said, if somebody called me and said we'll pay you $1,000 to come play live to 100 people, I probably wouldn't take it because the format just doesn't suit me. I'm not getting the real time feedback I'd like to have, and it was like a career move, like a record deal type thing or something in that line. But just your everyday, you're a popular creator, we want you to come play, we'll pay you a lot of money. I wouldn't take that opportunity because that format doesn't suit me. I like getting the real time feedback from my people. That way I know it's like for me personal little milestones during my live. I'm getting 100 little milestones. They're checking, they're tapping the screen, they're sharing the live out to new people, and you're able to literally see when you gain a new fan like in real time, which is you're not going to see that, and you're not going to, and it would be really difficult to build the following that I built if you were even if you were on a tour bus going around the state. It would probably take to get 35,000 little fans, unless you had a buzz or you're able to open up for somebody, it would be pretty impossible. But my live gets seen by a couple thousand people every night, whether they stay or not. They're passing through my live. So if you think about it, I've had nights where there's been 20,000 people. Think about that packs a pretty good venue, people to come through and see you. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I've heard some of the other creators talk about this, but when I think of it musically, I think it almost absolves the responsibilities of what a record label would entail, right? Except I think there are some privileges in different areas. Without going too far down that rabbit hole for a minute, tell me how it's affected or impacted the way you think about how you're going to create little shorts. For a lot of people, if you don't know TikTok, a lot of the stuff, yes, it can be now. Some of the videos are over 60 seconds, but the majority of the content is tailored to be under that. And so when you think about creating, when you think about music, and I think of a song, we all think 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. How do you feel like that's changed the way that you've been able to create and what that thought process looks like for you?
it's funny enough, I don't like making the short videos. It's not really, again, my format's always been like hit the button, go live. I hate having like a finite piece of a short video. But for me, it's allowed me to experiment because, funny enough, you have to keep in mind that most people don't listen to a video for more than a few seconds. So jokingly, I'll do a song. Let's say there's a song and 90% of it I can sing, but maybe the middle part I can't hit that note. I'll still do it on a short video because you're never going to make it that far. And I kind of laugh at it sometimes. I'll say, I can do this song even though I can't hit the note. They're not going to get that far in the song. So I usually do mine 60 seconds, and my videos are there just to serve the live. And recently I've shifted gears a little bit into trying to show people a little bit about my life and who I am with my short videos. I used to just stand up there and play 60 seconds of a clip of a song, and now I'm doing more like life. I'm trying to tie in lifestyle stuff more and put out like higher quality content instead of just standing on my phone. I'm working on producing better content.
That almost changes the landscape for a lot of creators. Before, even SoundCloud, as great as a application that has been to release free music for a lot of the artists, there seems to be this huge leap that TikTok has helped generate. For you, what do you think about moving forward with what the music industry might be changing to or changing from? How do you see yourself adapting or kind of being a part of creating that new landscape for musicians on what that could look like?
It's an amazing opportunity for musicians. One thing I have definitely found is talent, and we've talked about this, talent is not the only deciding factor. So I have a lot of talented friends that see what I'm doing and think they can, their first thought is, well, I'm better than this guy, so I'm going to go on there and do it and have success. And I think that they don't realize there's more that goes into it than just how well you play the guitar, how well you can sing, or do those in combination. But I do think that if you were doing this in reverse, if you were out there hitting the streets and you had no social media presence and they signed you to a record deal, the first thing they would do is force you into having a social media presence. They want you. This is the way that people are building. If you don't have a brand, this is an inexpensive way for the record label to test whether your viability in the market. Are people going to show, probably first follow, are they going to download your music, and then will they show up? If you show up in their city, are they going to come to see you? And so I've seen it not just with musicians, with every kind of format you can think of. Seen a person have a viral video, reproduce it a little bit, and then go on tour and just do a talking tour. And really, they had, it was just, so the model works for a lot, but it gives you, literally, you could have overnight success. I'm not looking for the viral success. I would love to have it, but I think consistency is key. And I've been building my base like at a slower pace than most, but they're way more loyal. They're gonna be more apt to follow. But again, every day is testing the boundaries of how far have I really taken this, and how sticky is this. Like this song is testing the boundaries. How many plays can you get? How you have this base of 35,000 people. Can you get 35,000 listens? I don't know. It's a little bit different. So it's testing the model, and hopefully I'm creating a blueprint for other musicians. I know so many talented people that are on the app that just need a tiny amount of guidance, and they could probably really shatter through. But I think nowadays you have to. This is going to be a requirement whether you want to do it or not. I know a lot of people are not social media savvy, but they're going to want you to have a follow. That's the first thing they're going to ask you. Sorry, how much following do you have on Instagram, or do you have on TikTok? I think TikTok Live is unique in the sense that you don't have to have a massive following. You could go on one night and literally create a massive following overnight, and you could monetize almost instantly.
Yeah, one of the things that I've heard people say, and I actually love this frame of reference to understand what social media is, but it's the new resume, right? It's your digital footprint, but it's so much bigger than that. Like
Right.
it says a lot about what you bring and how people can see and anticipate your value before you've opened your mouth. Because if you think about it, every time you post, everything is based on their last experience. So if you wait 2 days, you still have the following. So they still believe in you as a person, which I find is actually fascinating, as opposed to having to maintain, necessarily like a face-to-face relationship where every single day, how's this person's day going? Are they mad at me? Are they okay with me? And that almost bypasses some of those elements that I don't think we facilitate through our minds usually, when we're face to face that we realize we're doing. So I think it's a really, really cool experience there. For you, Luke, what would you say has been the most rewarding part? I know you work at one of the largest software companies. We've had the chance to talk about that on the app a little bit, but what can you kind of say about this opportunity that you've had to have a job and now take this avenue and take this leap to believe on yourself that this is possible to be a part of what you do, not only financially but also influentially.
Yeah, it's been crazy when I constantly move the goalpost. When I started this, it was just to be viable, and then they used to ask me, "What do you want to do?" And I would say, "I just want to play to more people. I want 100, I want 200, I want 500, 1,000." And I would say, like, I don't want a record deal. I don't want to make publish music. I just want to play to more people. And then, after visiting in Los Angeles, I realized that at least there was a little bit more runway for me to attempt to land and to get further down. So that's when I removed the goalpost. And like I said, literally every day a new opportunity pops up, and I see a little bit more clearer the puzzle as I'm building a puzzle. I didn't know what the final picture looked like, but now I'm starting to get a little bit of clarity on what it could be, and maybe it isn't, but it's starting to look like something that's real. But every step is critical. Every day is a chance that you don't progress towards that goal. So the rewarding part has been that I've been blessed and had an opportunity to even that people are even taking me seriously in this way. Because sometimes I can't even fathom what's happening and what could be. You kind of laugh and people talk about things like you're going to make it, things like that. Yeah, in my life, I've always been able to try to see the success. This is one of these things I can't necessarily see what the end game is. What happens from it? Putting out original music is really tricky and tough, and you just don't know how people are going to respond to it. But for me, I'm like starting to figure. I try to like think about things very deeply, and I've already think I can be better on the next song release. But I think for me, rewarding, is meeting all the people that I've had, the fact that they've stuck with me, and people have put. I mean, I think we talked about this. If a John Mayer played every night at a venue for free, eventually people would stop coming because they've seen him play the same songs. But these people still show up every night to my live very loyally, and they're happy as a clam to be there. And I need them as much as they need me. We feed off of each other, and I try to let them come along in the van of whatever this journey is, and they can feel that I'm extremely transparent about it, highs and lows. And again, I think it very much mimics the American Idol. You connect with the person. They may not be the most talented person of the group, but people want to see Ari win. They want to connect to your story, see you win, and they want to see it through all the way. And every little milestone, you let them in on your window. So you let them in the room, not let them just see you. Actually, let them be a part of your success.
Absolutely. What would be one thing going back to, what you've done and like how you've evolved over time here on your journey? What would be one thing that you know now as a musician, Luke, that you wish you would have known at 18, 19 years old that could have helped you bypass some of the hurdles that you faced?
Yeah, I think the fear of writing music, we talked about it. I should have been writing music all along. It's in me. I used to say, I couldn't write a better song than John Mayer. I couldn't write a better song than James Taylor. So why even try? So I would just tell myself, take a risk, go try it. Failure is okay. You're going to write some good songs and some bad songs, but just take a risk. And I think a lot of the people I meet now seem to are way advanced in this. The young people I meet on the app are writing music, and they're really taking a risk. But I would say, dream big, and just realize that you could possibly do something with it. Like I said, I've said it 100 times 8 months ago that I never really wanted to release music, and I was just super content with just playing with more people. But God's opened doors, and that's how I just look at, okay, is there another door? Can we go through it? How can we advance a little bit further every day?
Yeah, I think that's incredibly helpful. I know just some of the things that I've faced and continue to face, right? There's so many mental tests. And I think that a lot of people, even if they see, oh, maybe he's unhappy or maybe he looks stressed, can they really appreciate what we're going through or what that person's going through that they're seeing on the other side of a screen, or even just hearing about without really, breaking down and creating the experience for them to feel like they can be a part of. And so one of the things that I think that not only the platform has done, but just being an entrepreneur has done, has given way to seeing that we're human. How important is it for you to share that with your fans and for just musicians in general to show that they're human too, and really humanize the element of what it means to be a musician and an artist?
I think it's everything. For me, I that's the biggest piece of advice I give people that I'm mentoring on the app. That don't just stand up there, talk to people, let them know your goals. If there's a financial goal, connect people to your goals, connect people to what you want to achieve, and let them come along with you. And I think that's going to be everything. If you're just up there playing, I call it the glass bubble. You're not really letting people in. They can just go look at your videos if they want that. They're coming in a live environment to interact with you, and you really, we talked about this. You have a really short amount of time to capture them before they're gone. If they feel like you're not interacting, so I think giving them a piece of you is important, and obviously is going to be everything. And then connecting them and who they are to what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Luke, where can people learn more about you, tap in with you, to connect with you?
Yeah, we've been extensively building out this direct me link that's in my profile. So it's got media articles, it's got pretty much everything. We're actually worried there's too much in there, but it's got my song list, it's got all the social links. There are several articles in there, and I would advise people, if you want to read, I think I sent you one. The news articles cover the story a little bit more in depth, and that if you want to know more about my life and how I kind of approach this, and how, those are they're very honest articles that were written, and there's a press release in there about the song. But that's a great place to start, is those media articles if they really want to deep dive into who I am. But I'd say, the link in my bio would be probably the best to find out more about me.
Now you released, it's called The Perfect Song. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's phenomenal. I really enjoy listening to it. What was the motivation behind releasing that? And I know that that took some time to kind of cultivate for you. Why was it so important that you got that right? Why spend so much time to get one song right? I know sometimes people will just say it's more about just releasing as much music as I can, because people just want to listen, want to listen, want to listen. So why was that so important to get that right?
I think in life you have to convince people. Obviously, you have to have passion. I think people feel you're passionate about what you're doing, but also I think you need a compelling event. And I think sometimes you can saturate and water down your compelling events by doing too many compelling events. Similar, so I've been observing for a long time the most talented musicians releasing the most talented songs, but getting 100 plays in 6 or 8 months. And I would really, that was almost like a fear that I had, is, wow, these are really good songs and they're not getting any plays. Where did they go wrong? Like I would totally download this and put it on my playlist. And I think part of it is a lot of them didn't understand, or they were coached poorly into the process. But a lot of them also, a lot of musicians take the approach of making as much as you can, throw as much music, excuse me, that you can, and see what sticks. And for me, I just thought that was going to be the wrong approach. For one, I mean, I don't have a ton of songs to throw, but even if I did, I wouldn't do it that way. I have sitting on a really good song, and I refuse to even think about what the next steps are until we get past this launch and get everything out with the perfect song. But I also wanted to test again. I'm trying to create a blueprint for success and how you do this, and I'm really observing every little litmus test that I'm putting out there. I'm making videos. I'm talking to people. People are playing the song in their live, my friends, which is what I envisioned. If I could get Ari to play it, if I could get Motive to play it, and that's what's happening. They're playing it every time I do. There's 100 listens, and it just takes one it just takes to get to the right one person where it ends up on a special playlist, and then things start to take off. And for me, my life doesn't depend on the song taking off. It's one piece of the puzzle that I needed to fill in. I needed that piece of puzzle as a musician, as a to be taken serious by a greater audience on TikTok. I needed to be more than just the guy who played somebody else's songs. I needed to have put my own voice out there into the world. So it was important for me. The perfect song is definitely my baby, and like I said, we're starting to see what works, what doesn't work, and I'm going to evangelize and talk about that to my friends of how some of the things that I've done that have been successes and some of the failures on the release.
Going back to the perfect song, more specifically, what is it that you'd want your listeners to take away from that song? Is there one particular message, or is there a feeling that you want to elicit?
I think basically I wanted it to be an upbeat feeling and kind of a beachy song, kind of in the vein of Jack Johnson stuff. It's all really typically positive. But the perfect song, kind of the inspiration behind it is that, and I've had more time to think about this and evolve it, is that sometimes the inspiration you need is right in front of you, and that it could be your perfect song. So in this case, I used to think it was really just a love interest, but really it could be the beach, it could be a pet, it could be your happy place, it could be a memory is your perfect song. So I've encouraged people to make videos and show me what their perfect song is. But it took me a while to come to that evolution for the song, is that I want people to think about it. And then song number two, one thing I think I've realized, part of a successful song is you really have to tell a story, and that people have to connect with that story. So song number two that I'm going to be releasing at some point has probably a more stronger connection story than Perfect Song. I've seen the successful models of what works on TikTok is usually it tells a story about I'm in recovery or something, something catchy and that people can really connect with in a short clip. But I think the perfect song, I'm hoping that people can really think of it as like their happy place. Like what's their, think of Happy Gilmore and the happy place, doing the bull dance. That's the perfect song. Is I want people just to be thinking of what is the inspiration in life, what makes up their perfect song. A lot of people have seen, reviewers have taken it out of context and think that I'm saying it's the perfect song, the best song. And I've had some funny comments, it's not the perfect song or things like that. They're totally missing the point there.
No, definitely. I mean, it's obviously amazing, right? I mean, when you can figure out what that looks like for you, you no longer have to feel like it's an escape. You can find a way to incorporate it into your life so it becomes something you look forward to. Even go a step further and make it reward based, right? So you accomplish the things you need to get done. Maybe you don't love it, but you do them like you love it, right? And then you have the mindset to go in and kind of reward yourself for having done that by being in that space. For you, Luke, do you use music as a way to communicate when you go about writing your songs? Do you use it as a way to communicate how you're feeling in that moment, or to tell a story? I mean, what is that thought process for you when you say you want to sit down, write a song? Kind of take me through that, if you will.
Yeah, a lot of people have come to me with their stories, fans and things like that. I've heard a lot of things, and I try to put myself in their position and try to, detail some of their feelings. So like Broken As It Is, which is the next song, is about life and how broken sometimes it can feel, but that you have to keep moving on. And that's the message behind that song. And that resonates very largely with a huge amount of people on TikTok, because I feel like TikTok is a place that people who are lonely are finding the connections they need to not be lonely. And so I find very few people that don't have a story there. And a lot of them are out there telling their story, which is great because it lets people know they're not alone. But I try to connect, and I try to, sometimes it's not my personal story, but I try to use those things to try to create a greater audience, to let people know, okay, you're not alone if you struggle with addiction, or if you struggle with loneliness or depression, or I've met many people who told me they feel like life is broken and that they can't put the pieces back together. And so You pull from your own experiences and you pull from theirs and you pull successes and failures and you try to bundle it up into, 3 minutes basically and tell the story and let people be empowered and connected by it. So that's how I do it. But I'm by no means, I haven't wrote a ton of music, but as I go through the process, I'm starting to get a little bit more comfortable with that. So you co-write with people. I think amazing thing about writing music is even the people as like bona fide singer songwriters don't write majority of the music. There are people out there writing music and co-writing and writing lines. And Broken as It Is, I co-wrote with a producer. We did a writing session together, and it was kind of a tit for tat. And he was putting a little bit of him in there, I was putting a little bit of me, and we were playing with words. So it's interesting, but some people write to their experiences. I try to put myself in other people's shoes and their feelings and try to write to that.
I think that's the best way to do it. That sounds like the most authentic when you talk about a connection. They may never meet you, and maybe they don't ever come into your live, but if they stream that song and it makes them feel some type of way that leads them to take action, then I think it's done its job. So I'm right on board with that. When you're talking about some of the steps that you take, could you give me three, if we had to chop it up, could you give me three steps that you think are really important for musicians to consider that you've used in the past or implemented nowadays to help really get your music to be where it is?
Writing songs, I would say, definitely, I think part of it is just devoting time in your day to work on it. Like, again, that you're going to fail and writing, you're going to fail some days. Some days are going to be phenomenal. Everything. Some albums have been written like in an hour. Big, popular, crazy albums. I think, but step one is to devote time a little bit in the day. Think about it. A lot of musicians carry notepads and do recorders, things like that. I write messages to myself of little lines. And I think sometimes if you get, another step is if you get something, even if it's just one line, because Broken as It Is started with just literally one line. I take my shoes off to put to feel the ground beneath my feet. That was the line. And there was nothing else beyond that. I literally sent a message to my moderator saying, hey, I think there's something here maybe, but it's just really one line. And we kind of joked about it. And then that one line spawned. So I think a song can be born out of just one tiny concept to do that. And then, there's a lot of resources out there. Utilize your resources. Don't be afraid to co-write with somebody. I think that was something that I think it's a mystery to a lot of people. Like, what does it mean if you write a smash hit and somebody else wrote it with you? I think honestly, it doesn't even matter. I joke like I hope there's 100 people on the song. If it's a smash hit, it doesn't really matter. But I think there is like one thing that has a unique phenomenon is a lot of people have approached me about playing their lyrics. Like 20, 30 people have said, hey, I wrote this song. Sometimes it's just one song and they're not they're not writers, but then other times it's people that churn out a lot of music, a lot of songs, but have no instrumental talent. So they want me to do a composition for it. And for me, I haven't had the time, but also like, if I can't connect with what they're saying, really connect, it's really hard for me. So
Taking those steps to record, spend some time, write messages to yourself, kind of bounce those ideas off of someone else, maybe get some ideas from someone else who's not necessarily in your circle, who may give you more of an authentic reaction or more constructive feedback. And then you'd say like three is probably just to take that next step of putting it out there and just letting the world tell you if this is what the market sees value in, or not that it's not valuable if they don't, but it might not be what your audience at the time that you currently have is desiring to listen to.
yeah, my unique position was that I'm so busy with life that when I talked to my group about this and they said you need to write a song, I said I'm going to play you a song, but I literally don't have time. If this is not good, don't lie to me and tell me it is. I really need to know if I should pursue this further because like I can be doing other things with my time. Like if this is not good and you're just telling me this, and they gave me pretty honest feedback that they liked it a ton and that I needed to go back and record it and put the wheels in motion for it. So that I'd say get honest feedback from people. It's really hard. As somebody told me that you're not going to find, there's not a lot of Simon Cowells out there who are going to tell you exactly how they feel. I thought that was kind of interesting. I always say that I'm looking for the Simon Cowell. Now there's a ton of resources like in the distribution process. You can shop your songs. There's so many, technical resources. I did a ton of research on it, where you shop your songs like radio stations and playlists and hot or not type feedback, and they'll rate different parts of the song and tell you what they think. But you also have to understand that music is so like very subjective, that people, if you like Dave Matthews, you may not like death metal, even though it's the greatest death metal song ever. So, you got to put things into perspective that 50% of the people are probably just not going to like your song because they just don't prefer that sound.
Just to follow up with that, how much do you think about the idea that a lot of people might not like it, or I need this amount of people to like it kind of thing, when you go about trying to do it not just for fun but more of a career wise? How much does that consume the thought process there?
As an independent artist, not backed by a record label, it's hard for me to put a number on what success is. I've said it probably the last 10 times in the last 3 days. I don't really know what a successful launch looks like. I mean, is it 500 streams? Is it 10,000 streams? Obviously, big numbers would be good, but I don't know what that looks like. But I also know that like I'm not trying to get listens for monetization, because you could get a huge amount of listens, but you get such a small amount. Really, it's exposure. And like for me, I want to connect the song back to my story, because I think it's a great story that covers a lot of different bases. It could be feel good, it could be blueprint, but again, this is like a piece of shading in a block that I needed to have shaded in to really say, here's a pretty darn cool story. Like, and I wrote a song, and I've tested it, because I've had critics say, people don't really like the way you sing. They just think you're a nice guy. Like, they just think you're a nice guy, and they're in your live because you're a nice guy. So putting out a song also kind of tests that boundary, because people are not going to know who I am. They're not going to see me. They don't know anything about my story. They're literally judging it on the merits of, the melody and the vocal quality and the lyrics and things like that. So it's part of just like, testing your criticisms to a bigger and bigger and bigger audience. But I think in my case, it's just got to get there to the right person, and a bigger influencer who puts it out there. And then I think the song is good enough that if people hear it, I often say, like, this goes for anybody on TikTok Live. I see so many lives that are great, but if they're just not getting seen, you're not going to have success. You have to be seen. And part of that is in your control, and part of it's not in your control. And that's the same with the song. Is I'm doing everything I possibly can to make sure that I'm executing a successful launch. But at the end of the day, it's going to have to hit one person. It's going to come down to a handful of people that are going to decide the fate of this song. Somebody who's going to say, I work for Apple, and I'm a curator for playlists, or I'm a music person who does music for movies. This would be a great song for a movie. It's going to come down, in my opinion, to just getting it out to a broad group of people, so that a very small amount of people can decide if something's going to happen or not with it.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, Luke. When you talk about like bringing everybody together, it seems like that's where it becomes this 100 people working on a song, right? Like, to me, that's where all these other players, if you will, come into play, because it gives everybody a chance to, oh, if I like it, I'm going to go and tell this person, now this person. And by the end of it, even though it's just you and it is your song, or if you just wrote it with another person, people could say it's just the two of you. It took so many more people to make that puzzle, that incredible image that it's capable of being. And I think that's what makes the process in totality just really remarkable. What would you say about what the future of music could look like? As far as I know, a lot of musicians these days aren't necessarily releasing full albums. A lot of the styles that I've been seeing lately have been single, 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 single. And it almost doesn't even always have to tell a story. They're kind of their own season, if you will. I like to joke, it's like instead of doing one set of 15 reps, think of it as 15 sets of one, right? So it's like every time you put it out there, you're giving everything you have. And that increases the quality of performance overall. Is that something that you think about moving forward with how you're going to distribute your music?
Yeah, because I think society kind of dictates. Now we have the ability to select and build customized playlists of, even like a John Mayer. He'll write an album of 20, 15 songs, and only 2 or 3 will resonate, hit hard, right? And then his core base will listen to the other songs, but even then they'll gravitate back towards a handful of songs. I think two things you're seeing out there. One is in the TikTok space, the musician space, they're testing. They're just kind of throwing a fishing line out there to see if they can get a bite. And if they do get a bite, then they put a little bit more into it. They're literally letting the people decide whether they should take it to a. I've seen videos say, should I take this further? You know, like, what do you think of this song? I just wrote this. Should I take it further? And they're using that as the litmus test to decide whether they want to invest in it or get people to help them invest in it. But again, I still think a good part of what is happening in the world today for success is more about the person and almost probably equally about how you're connecting with people. The best artists are going to connect probably on a personal level, and you're gonna buy into something about their story that is remarkable. And there are, like I said, a lot of great musicians that don't have very remarkable stories, and I think that's probably one of the components of why they can only go so far with it. And they can take it pretty far, but they can't seem to crack. I've got friends that have been on The Voice that just can't seem to crack the code. And I think, and I get intimidated. Like, I'll co-host with people that are just crazy great musicians and crazy Chris Stapleton type singers. It's intimidating sometimes because I'm like, oh man, I don't know if you really belong in the same group. But the same note, they struggle sometimes, or some people, not the people I co-host with, but people to really capitalize on what their talent and why it works for one and what I've said that to the people I work with that, hey, I know a guy who could do this for, and they would say even if they could do everything you did, they may not achieve the same level of success because people just don't do a good job. So I think my best asset is connecting with people. I think that's now I got to see if I can connect to a bigger audience and a bigger audience and bigger. So I'm gonna definitely need help from TikTok, and that's the really interesting thing I think people are figuring out is true engagement to followers to engagement count. And I found that to be one of the most fascinating things I've been following is you see big people with big, massive million followers and their videos have 200 views on them. Where's the disconnect there? So I think you really have to really judge somebody. You have to look at their engagement to scale. And I think that's why I've had a great relationship with TikTok is I do so much more with so much less than most. And I can, in terms of engagement, create a higher percentage of engagement just to follower count.
One of the things there that I heard you say that I think is very, very valuable is there are moments where you're intimidated. And that may be because you're next to somebody, as you just mentioned. I know that for some people, it might just be the thought, right? Like, they may not actually be experiencing that there's somebody next to them on the screen, or they're not meeting this person in real life, if you will, but it's enough to slow them down. What in those moments do you tell yourself when it comes to your mindset? How have you been able to armor your mind with the right tools and the right things to be saying when you're in
A
that
lot
moment
of
to keep going?
Yeah, it's been a lot of faith. I get that feeling quite frequently that I don't belong. I'm on these guys are super talented, and a lot of them have been grinding for years. And here I have come along and have had a minimal level of success in a short amount of time. And sometimes I feel like bee stings almost in those moments. And it's not their fault. They don't do it, but in my mind, I'm constantly going over in my head, do they really think like the perfect song's good? Like, their songs are really good. Does the perfect song belong beside? But I just try to like think of my whole journey and that it isn't as important that the perfect song is the amazing song. I just tell myself this is just one piece of my story, and that it's not, my whole story is not built on the perfect song being a huge success. The perfect song is just another door into my house, to where my story, my story. It's just an avenue to find out my story, and I'm just trying to get out there and create multiple avenues so that people can connect.
I think that's incredible, Luke. What kind of impact, when it's all said and done, do you want to have on your industry, the music industry, and the world?
Yeah, I hope that I can. I mean, I have a lot of, like I said, young people that I mentor that are extremely talented. I think I would love to see one of those guys literally turn it into something real. And, my impact is I hope I can make the live community better. I hope that I can take what I've learned and teach anybody that is willing to listen and put the time and effort into it. I hope I can make it a better place where people feel more welcome and that it's not a competition. I try to teach them from my shortcomings and the things that I learned early on. But the impact I hope is that I can show people that there is a blueprint and that you're never too old to chase your dreams. I think dreams are not going to chase themselves. Somebody said it to me recently. They're exactly right. You got to get out there and chase your dreams, and you got to take a risk on yourself. And sometimes it fails, sometimes it pays off, but you're never going to know. You say in golf, 100% of the putts that don't get there aren't going in the hole right. So you got to get your dream to the hole, and see if the ball's going to drop.
I love the way that you phrased that there. And, for anyone listening at home, for this is the chance for you to step back and I think really just give yourself the opportunity to see the value in yourself. So many times throughout this interview and through other interviews that you guys have seen, I've heard Luke say here and other entrepreneurs, again, who have attained that level of success, say that there are the times where they feel defeated. There are the times where they're intimidated. There are those moments in their mind where they're saying, man, I don't know if I belong here. But in those moments, I think it's the most important to double down on why you got to where you were, to double down on how you got to where you were, and just reintroduce those ideas in a way that serves you, to continue to emphasize that you're supposed to be there, that that's where the universe needs you to be, because you're sharing your gift with the world. And while you don't realize or may never know the amount of people you're helping, it's a chance for you to give that back and continue to show people that they can do the same for others. Luke, I really appreciate your time, man. This has been incredible. And again, so much success for you in the future, my man, is coming. I know it. I love that song, but more importantly, your lives make a lot of people's lives better. And I'm just grateful that we've had the chance to meet, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, man, same to you. Thank you for giving me a platform to talk, and look forward to taking care of you.
Absolutely, brother. You take care now. Stay blessed.